Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Maxi here once again, and welcome back for yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final video for Super Mario 3D All-Stars for the Nintendo Switch. So I'd like to give you some of these extra bits and bobs here and there. Especially noticeable, there are some interesting stuff here and there for the sake of this compilation. As well as from that, until by the end of this video, I will give you guys my final thoughts of this entire compilation as a result. So with that being said though, it's just the fact that I can't believe this is actually the finale video for the sake of the entirety of, you know, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, because as far as I'm aware, last time we did finish up completely in terms of not only Mario's playthrough, but also Luigi's playthrough as well, for the sake of the forms of Super Mario Galaxy. So as a result, yeah, there's just not much else you can say about this, basically, because as a result of that kind of stuff, though, I think that's basically as far as this is concerned. So anyway, so without further ado, let's head back into the main menu quickly, while simply I need to grab my controller quickly, so just in case we can able to actually just to show you guys some interesting bits here and there. To be more specifically, as far as I mentioned this earlier, ever since the introduction video of this particular Let's Play itself, in terms of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, that usually, relatively speaking, that basically we do have a language selector, which basically does the fact that there are quite a few languages, depending on what which specific game you're playing. Like, either for Super Mario 64 has 5 languages, and I believe Super Mario Sunshine has about 7, and on Galaxy though, it does have 10 different languages. But before I do all that stuff though, let's go ahead and showcase off what the actual other contents you get for the sake of the forms of the entirety of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, like specifically the soundtrack album, which basically this allows you to able to, well, to be more specifically, trying to listen to some of those soundtrack music from the likes of the forms of both Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. But here's the thing this time around though, is the fact that in Super Mario 64, as you can see, we actually now stumbled across ourselves the Piranha Plant's Lullaby on the piano version, which is actually pretty interesting, despite the fact that I wasn't exactly gonna select it, because I just want to show this off right off the bat. And also, from the Super Mario Sunshine selections of soundtracks, this time around though, on the other hand though, basically, you remember when you do manage to able to listen to some of the most amazing music ever? Well, now there's actually a music based off from specific cinematic cutscenes. So, that's pretty cool though, especially noticeable. This is all, instrumental and stuff like that. Usually get interrupted by voice actors and all that stuff, which I think is actually pretty swell if I do say so for myself. And of course for Super Mario Galaxy, well, obviously the game itself does have its amazing soundtrack, so because of this though, I want to ask though, how come that Amazon physical version of those specific CD soundtracks for Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, that basically does the fact that why they become so expensive back then? I'm guessing it's more likely like a rarity kind of thing where you're able to actually get it from Club Nintendo back in the day, but then someone must have sell it with a sealed version of the CD physical version, and then the pricing is skyrocketing. So because of this though, yeah, there's not much right to hum about when it comes to the actual soundtrack album for you know, the entire Super Mario 3D All-Stars compilation game. But next thing we'll show off, like I said before, is this language selecting. So because of this though, as far as we already know, is the fact that we do have the English versions. You can either just set it onto UK or US, stands for United States of America, and also some other languages here and there as well, like Dutch, French, and especially noticeable with Japanese, as you can see. So for example, if we hit into Super Mario Galaxy right here, and by the way, every time you load up the game, basically you get yourselves a small loading screen which actually tells you the hints and all that stuff, as well as this little let's just say like an imagery just slap onto the loading screens, and that's basically all this is. So as you can see, the entire in-game is actually in Japanese text, so as a result of that kind of stuff though, not much else to say here. Now of course you can able to actually skip that cinematic introduction screen if you wanted to, so yeah, you can get the idea about the forms of specific suggestions worth noting for. So Yeah, let's check out the language selecting for Super Mario Sunshine, and if we try to select the game as in English US, specifically the American version, basically the logo itself is a little bit different than the forms of how it does it on the UK version, because as you can see, the actual, the title itself looks quite massive, all things considered, especially that the Shine sprite is actually, like, further to the left and stuff like that. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to say to you about the forms of the US title screen, which is usually appears everywhere at this point right now. But if you try to set the game as in Japanese, basically we get ourselves a different logo design. So because of that, and also blue Nintendo color, which basically, because that was back in the day where certain old school Japanese players who ever experienced the retro Mario games before they start the game, basically they got themselves a pretty cool colored blue color for the Nintendo logo, which I thought was pretty interesting. So, and also you get the Japanese font along with the actual subtitle underneath that, which is obviously Super Mario Sunshine, as you can see. And finally, perhaps even the most interesting of them all though, is in Super Mario Galaxy, because on the language selector, there is actually the Korean version of that particular language selecting. So if we try to select that, then basically just dive right into Super Mario Galaxy. Instead of calling Super Mario Galaxy, it just says, as you can see, Super Mario Wii. And also it says on the copyright little thing itself right there, it just says 2007 all the way up to 2008. Which is pretty obvious because North Korean games managed able to get the game after the Japanese release or the English releases. So yeah, that's actually pretty interesting, all things considered. So yeah, I guess that's not much else to say about this for this point right here. And the next thing we'll show off is this very cool little artwork that you can get if you get the physical version of the game. Like basically it shows you the forms of specific screenshots based off from Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. And I believe each game has about 9 screenshots total. Which, by the looks of all that stuff though, it pretty much leads us to 27 screenshots altogether. I know it's generally a bit weird, but it's only mainly because, like I said this before, it's like the emulation games, all things considered. And on top of all that stuff though, I think, relatively speaking, it's just basically it's like a full screenshot slap onto the actual, you know, the inside cover of the actual physical version of the game. But as far as mainly saying goes, that's pretty much as far as I can say about it. So, yeah, unfortunately though, there's not much extras we can show this off to you guys. As far as I'm aware, let's just get to the final thoughts of this particular compilation game as a result. I think it's good. Not perfect by any means, but certainly it's really, really good. Especially noticeable because, after all, you're able to experience the past 3D Mario's past, from the likes of, you know, 64 all the way up to Galaxy, but some people complain about the forms of the lack of Super Mario Galaxy 2, which is understandably so, but let's get to the positive things out of the way first with this entire compilation. Experiencing Super Mario Sunshine in widescreen within HD textures here and there is actually very impressive, despite the fact that it was emulated and stuff like that, and also just able to play Sunshine and Galaxy on the go. It makes things really, really top-notch, especially in Super Mario 64's case, despite the fact that we already got the DS remake of the game back in 2004 or 5, depending on what region you lived in. So, and also, as far as I'm aware, basically though is the fact that, honestly guys, that's as far as I can say in terms of the positives in terms of this compilation, because, well, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed those 3 Mario's Adventures again, except the fact that I can usually take them on the go, which is very impressive. Although, it does have some issues though for this entire compilation, despite the fact that this usually came out on the worst year we've ever experienced in 2020, so as a result for that kind of stuff though, this game is usually a celebration of the 35th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Series, so as a result though, like I mentioned this already, countless amount of times already, is the fact that you do get Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy all in one in particular package, and then obviously most people complain about the lack of Super Mario Galaxy 2. The reason why it's doing this is because of space storage issues, or perhaps even maybe that Nintendo just completely forgot about it, which it doesn't make that much sense to me though, because you really enjoyed Super Mario Galaxy 2 a lot. Perhaps even it's one of my favorite 3D Mario games of all time, next to the original game, and of course Super Mario Odyssey, but that's besides the point. And the second issue with this is, though, is that obviously these three games are usually emulated, so as a result, though, it's nothing usually a massive upgrade to it, apart from the fact that they did alter it slightly for certain text messages here and there, and aside from all that stuff, though, that's just pretty much as far as I can say about it. And thirdly is the fact that, well, this is a limited time game release, because as far as I'm aware, thankfully you can still get the game physically, as in second-hand condition shops, mainly like CX or GameStop, depending on what specific country you lived in. But as a result of that kind of stuff, though, it's actually very hard to find right now for new sealed copies of the game, because as far as I'm aware, much like Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii, the game gets a lot more expensive these days, especially noticeable because it was on a limited run kind of situation, which also applies onto the majority of any other 35th anniversary of the Mario stuff in the past, like, you know, Game & Watch Super Mario Bros., as well as the forms of, Super Mario Bros. 35 for its online services and all that stuff, which just kind of sucks if you ask me. And fourthly, because of how the fact that in Super Mario 64 does not able to actually upgrade a lot of it, it's just basically it runs at 720p on docked mode, and on top of all that stuff though, that was the only game that does not support widescreen, so as a result though, it just feels out of place. And on top of all that stuff though, is the fact that for those of you who really want to do a lot of speedruns out there, basically that was basically based off from the Japanese 1997 re-release of Super Mario 64, which is Shundu edition, and basically the backwards long jump glitch is no longer existence. So yeah, it's a bit of a missed opportunity right here. And I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well is that the amount of content on this particular compilation, it certainly feels a bit bare bones. Like, I was expecting something more, like after you complete all three of those games all at once, basically you would be able to unlock Super Mario Galaxy 2. But unfortunately though, on the other hand though, it doesn't seem to be more accurately trying to able to put up with this way. So because of this though, yeah, I feel excited, but disappointed at the same time in terms of content-wise. Well, like I said, don't get me wrong, I found this a very, very great compilation game indeed, but it's just about the fact that the amount of content they've got, it just feels a bit bare bones to me. So as a result, I could still recommend this entire compilation if you're a die-hard Nintendo fan, especially noticeable for a Mario fanatic like I was. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, yeah, that's pretty much as far as we can say about this. Well, assuming if you guys were able to actually stumble across into this game physically, because you're no longer going to get this game digitally though, because, well, as far as I'm aware, future is looking bleak at this rate. So, anyways, I hope you guys do enjoy this entire Let's Play of Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I had a lot of fun playing these three games again, but this time scaled up into 1080p in 2 games in some cases. And as a result of that kind of stuff though, we would like to able to see more Mario content during at some point until 2023, if possible. So either way though, and as far as I'm aware, despite with the forms of specific amount of delays between uploading schedules of the forms of Super Mario Sunshine and Galaxy's case, but that's only mainly because I just wanted able to go through the entire gap within that months and period and all that stuff. Even though I do apologize with my commentary, gets a little bit still to that point, that's only mainly because I was trying to able to explain myself about the fact that, well, usually relatively speaking, I think that's as far as I can try to discuss upon, you know, my final thoughts of the, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. So, but still, a very great compilation to have, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, despite it's emulated, but that's the only major downside for this though, because, well, they were expecting to believe that they were able to remake Super Mario 64 again back in the day for several rumors or leaks, but it knows what it is, I guess. And there was no way you can able to actually just get, well, you know what I'm saying. So I guess there's not much else I can talk about for this point, guys, because, well, yeah, I have nothing to say. Because there's no re-releases anywhere for the sake of the films of this entire compilation. Not even they're able to include Super Mario Galaxy 2 anytime now because, well, the game's dead. For the sake of the films of the sale records, along with the digital release of the game. So, yeah, I have no idea why I'm saying things weirdly enough. But anyway, so I hope you guys do enjoy this playthrough, and this is me, Maxi, from the likes of the Maxi Toys. And until then, I am not exactly sure what I was about to be doing for Mario games next. Well, aside from Mario Party Superstars, it's still continuing. Oh, wait a second, let's do some Mario sports games. That'll be fun. So I'll see you guys at some point.